All right. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hello, and welcome to this Wednesday episode of Crypto with Chris. Today's going to be a little bit different. I don't have a guest on this Wednesday like I have up until now. But I wanted to spend today's episode talking about kind of some of my influences, some of the people that helped me through my crypto journey, through my technical analysis journey that I relied heavily on to gain all this knowledge that I have since acquired. It's funny. I don't know these people. They're just public figures in the crypto space that I stumbled into along the way, but they've been just invaluable. And so yeah, that's what we're going to get into. But before we do that, of course, I want to, as always, remind everybody to follow my Twitch channel so that you get alerts anytime I go live, and also so that you can comment in the chat. You do have to be a follower in order to comment. And then lastly, follow my Telegram channel for alerts on all upcoming shows. The links to that are in my Twitch profile and in the description of all my videos. And then I'm going to talk about a couple of different services today, and I'm going to put all those links in the description of this video too, so that you'll be able to find all of these great services that I'm about to talk about. So with that, let's get started. Okay, so, well, let's see. I just wanted to kind of touch on this chart here that we're seeing on the screen first. And as you watch my videos, you will have seen me reference these cycles quite a bit, and I'm going to dig into that and why in a bit. But this is kind of what I'm going to get into is these cycles here, and hopefully by the time we're done, it will sort of shed some light on what this is all about. Um, but before that, let's see. I'm going to back up a little bit, and then I talked about this a few Wednesdays ago. I did an episode with Quokka. We did a two-part episode on just kind of our journeys through the crypto space and lessons we've learned and things we wish we would have known and sort of how we got to where we are today and that kind of stuff. And in that, I mentioned a couple of people and that I learned TA from. One of them is CryptoCred, and so that's what I'm going to start with. When I first got into crypto back in 2017, I didn't know anything about technical analysis. I didn't have an investing background. I didn't have a trading background. I didn't really know anything about anything. I just had a friend and we had heard about Bitcoin and we're like, okay, let's buy some Bitcoin. This seems like a good idea. So we did, and then suddenly we have this Bitcoin, and now what? Now what do we do? And suddenly the price is going up, and it's like, well, how do you keep track of all this stuff? How do you know what's even going on? And so that first, I swear, that first 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks after I bought my Bitcoin, I just went headfirst into YouTube, and I swear I must have watched 8 hours of content every single day for like 2 weeks straight, just trying to absorb every bit of information I could on what I was even doing, because I don't really like to kind of, especially I threw quite a bit of money in, and I don't like to do something like that and just kind of navigate it blindly and have no idea what it is that I'm doing. That's an easy way to lose all your money. And so I kind of jumped in head first by diving in with the money part first. But I quickly realized that if I'm going to do anything here and be successful on any level, I need to learn what it is that I'm doing here. So yeah, so that's what I did. I started watching tons of videos, tons of content, just looking at everybody and every person that was on YouTube at the time. The landscape was very different back then than it is now. But through that, I stumbled on a couple different people. In the first year, let me bring this up here. So this first year, I stumbled on this guy named CryptoCred. He goes by CryptoCred on Twitter, and he's got his own YouTube channel. He's also got a separate channel today, or sorry, a separate channel also that we'll talk about here in a second. But yeah, on his individual channel, he did this amazing, amazing series here called well, just technical analysis, and all of these videos are so in depth, and most of them, as you can see, are over an hour long, and what is there now, there's 22 of them. um, this series here, I watched every single one of these videos, a couple of them more than once. He's gone back and redone a couple of them now, updated a few, as you can see, updated up here. This series was just invaluable to me. It really laid an amazing foundation for what it was I was looking at when I would sit here and stare at a trading view chart and be like, what are all these lines? What are these moving averages? What does all this stuff even mean? Like, what are these candles? What are the wicks? How does this even work? Like, what is all this stuff, you know? And this series literally lays it all out. I mean, to an amazing degree. And honestly, I can't believe it's free. Like it just is so it's like reflective of the amazingness that is the crypto space, and the fact that it's so just kind of everybody's in it to help everybody else. It's so sort of altruistic like that, and egalitarian like that to a degree, and everybody just kind of wants to lift everybody up. And this guy Cred, he has done so much for me in terms of just learning how to read a chart. And I remember back then too, he used to do these like kind of just impromptu live streams. He didn't quite have the same presence or the same sort of structure channel as he does now, where he does regularly scheduled stuff. He would just kind of hop on, he would send a tweet out or some kind of an announcement, and he's going live. And I would jump on every time I could, every chance I could, and he would be talking so fast and like swearing so much, and I just was like, I don't know who this guy is, but he's like the coolest guy I've ever heard, you know. And but like literally probably the first, I don't know, dozen times I watched him do this, I didn't understand anything he was talking about. He was just all of the I didn't have the all the lingo, all the sort of lexicon that comes with technical analysis. None of it had been absorbed in my brain yet, and I didn't know what any of it meant, but I just knew that it was interesting. And the more I watched, the more clicked and the more I picked up on. And it got to the point where now, I know everything that he's talking about. But I will tell you, like even after all this time, after me having done technical analysis now for almost every day for like the last 6 years, and really just staring at charts for I don't countless hours, thousands and thousands of hours, I'll still put on a cred video, one of his weekly videos, and just he just runs circles around me. He's just so insightful, and so just something about the way he breaks down a chart is just so unique. Particularly the fact that like yeah, he did all these videos on how to how to use different indicators and how to do different stuff. But the fascinating thing about him is he almost never uses indicators on his actual TA videos that he does nowadays. In fact, it's often just a blank chart with just a candle chart and nothing else. No volume, no moving averages, no lines, no nothing. And he basically just focuses entirely on horizontal price levels, horizontal support and resistance levels, and ranges that are defined by these levels. And within that, he's able to glean, I mean, so much information. And so it's kind of just a testament to, it's like, yeah, there's all these great indicators out there, and you can use them all, and you can make it as complicated as you want and in depth as you want, and you can make your charts look like a big plate of spaghetti. But in the end, you don't need to do any of that. You don't need to. You can literally just look at a chart and identify, a couple of horizontal price levels, look at it on the daily, the weekly, the monthly, and from there you can glean so much about a chart, and what's going on with it, and how healthy it looks or doesn't look, and things like that. But I really wanted to first, like I said, point this series out because I think this is an amazing series. I highly recommend anybody who's just now getting into technical analysis, who doesn't understand anything, who pulls up a chart and thinks it just looks like a big mess, to go and watch this series and watch all of these videos. I know some of them are long, some of them are over an hour. It doesn't matter. Like there's so much good stuff in here. And if you watch all of these, I guarantee you this is as good as any program out there that you will find. And you will by far be a better person for it. And I will absolutely be putting the link to this in the description for this video. But what happened is like, okay, so over the course of like a year, I absorbed all these videos. That was probably, so going into like 2018. So we had hit the Bitcoin peak in 2017, early 2018. And I spent the whole next year just kind of educating myself, absorbing all these videos, staring at charts all day. And I got to the point where, okay, I could look at a chart and I could glean quite a bit. I could break down a lot. But what I was missing was kind of just how to apply it or what am I trying to say? I didn't sort of have this contextual grasp that I needed with the market. I didn't know how to take the information I got from these and the indicators and all of these videos. I didn't quite know how to take it and like apply it to a chart and sort of glean actual actionable information. I know that sounds silly because I'm sure within this there is that, but like putting it into practice was a transition. It's like you can learn how to do it. I got all the sort of academic knowledge of technical analysis from this series, but then actually then applying it to real live charts and gleaning insight from it, and then being able to like act, do trades with it and like identify trade setups with it and like make money doing it was a whole different ball of wax. And so um, then, around January of 2019, so very beginning of 2019, I stumbled on a guy named Bob Loukas. Actually, before I get, let me back up. Sorry. This is Cred's current channel that he's doing. I mean, he still has this other channel too. This is active, but he doesn't regularly post content to it. He's got another channel that he does with this other great analyst named Crypto Donald, and they do shows 2 or 3 days a week, typically. Cred does a show Monday. Sometimes they do a casual Wednesday show. They do a casual Friday show a lot. Occasionally, Cred will do an altcoin Thursday. But I just wanted to point this out because I recommend going and subscribing to this channel if you haven't. These guys are great. Both of them are super smart, really great analysts, and each one of these shows is unique. I kind of like the Monday Markets with Cred because it's super concise, it's brief, it's just like a quick check-in, it's a quick breakdown of what are the important levels to pay attention to throughout the week. And it's a good just kind of primer to start your week off and have a good mental picture of what you need to be paying attention to. And then the casual Wednesdays and the casual Fridays are more of a longer form, deep dive technical analysis and just kind of look at the charts with a lot of different opinions and analysis thrown in, and they're great too. But if you only have a minute and you just want to kind of get in and get out and kind of get the important sort of nuts and bolts, then definitely don't miss the Monday Markets with Cred. I think it's a great show. I rarely miss it, and even if I do, I go back and watch it because even though I do my own technical analysis, I just want to see if like we're on the same page, because if I kind of come into the week with my own idea of what's going on and I put Monday Markets with Cred on and he's in a completely different headspace and talking about something totally different, um, I'm definitely going to be thinking that. And of course, without failure, he comes up with things that I miss, without a doubt every time. And so it's always good to get multiple opinions and don't just think that you know it all because you don't. Nobody does, and I'm sure both of these guys would be the first to say they don't either. So yes, watch the show, subscribe to this channel, watch this video series, you know improve your life. Okay, fast forward back to 2019. 2019 comes around, and a friend sent me this video by this guy named Bob Loukas. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning. So back, what was it, January, whatever this was, January 4th or January 9th, 2019. I get this video from Bob Loukas. I'm like, who is this guy? Um, and he comes on, and he definitely is different than all the other YouTubers I had watched at that point. He's very just kind of chill, like he's not like a hype guy, which is great. He's not flashy production. He didn't have a big fancy intro. I mean, he's like Cred in that regard too. Like they just kind of come on, they just start talking. You don't need all this flash and this stuff, and I liked him because he just always had a level head. And he came on and he started talking about these cycles. And like, let me here show you to me. So here's kind of just a snapshot of like his first video that I was watching. And I was like, okay, this is kind of the perspective I've been needing. So like when I had gotten into Bitcoin, I had no idea. I got in at the at the 2017, in October of 2017, and then it peaked, and I really had no idea what was going on. And then all through the bear market of 2018, I didn't really have big picture perspective of what was going on. And it wasn't really until Bob Loukas threw this chart up on the screen, and I was just kind of mind blown at it. I was like, oh, wow, okay, so Bitcoin goes in these 4-year cycles where it's basically 3 years up and 1 year down, and it's done it, going on its third time now. And okay, this is just kind of normal ebb and flow, and this is what's happening. And so sure was he in this video, I mean, he basically, um, you know, he then projects out the next 4 years and he's like, this is, I think it's going to go up. He's like, I don't know how high it's going to go. I'm not predicting a price. He never predicts a price, but he's like, I'll guarantee you, not guarantee you, but I'll bet you that like from a timing standpoint, we're likely to see the next peak in late 2021. And, sure enough, we did. And so in that moment, he was so strong in his conviction and so clear with the way he laid out this cyclical pattern of Bitcoin. um, I was immediately intrigued, and so I started kind of following all of his videos he would put out on YouTube. But the problem was that they weren't coming out as frequently enough. They were, he only does a YouTube video every like month or so. And so I followed him on Twitter and I started digging into it. And then I discovered that he's got this service called Bitcoin Live, which I'm going to look at here. So I stumbled on this website, Bitcoin Live, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I didn't actually subscribe right away. I kept following his YouTube videos that were free that would come out every month, and I kept following his Twitter. And then one day I just kind of realized that I needed more. I needed some regular insight. And I had looked at this website probably, a dozen times or more, and I saw all these people on here. I didn't know who most of them were at the time. I since obviously know who Peter Brandt is. He's kind of, a legend in the space or in the investing space. And so I kind of bit the bullet. It was expensive for me at the time. It was, I pay quarterly, which works up to about $100 a month, which seemed expensive in the moment, but little did I realize that almost right away after subscribing, I would get such useful and actionable insight from that this service would pay for itself 10 times over every year, um, almost right out of the gate. And so it became not only not an expense but like an investment, and like to the point where it's like I can't really operate without it now. And when I first joined it, I really was only, I joined it because of Bob, because I followed Bob's YouTube videos, and he was really the sole resource that I was looking for. And what I discovered, after watching Bob's videos, I was really happy because he does videos, like 3 times a week typically, through this service. And it's so great because what I love about this service is it's not like a signal service. It's not like, hey, trade alert, go buy this, go do this right now, without any sort of context or knowledge behind what's going on. It's that old adage where this service like teaches you how to fish, as opposed to just giving you a fish. And so I was learning, Bob would come on and he would sit and break down 20 plus charts, in a row in rapid fire fashion, sometimes not spending more than like a minute on any one chart. But in doing that, I got really adept at just kind of identifying what was important, what were the key elements to look for, how to quickly determine if a chart looked healthy or not, or what was a good chart and what was a bad chart, and what needed to happen, for it to look like something you would want to buy, and things like that. Um, and so through that, I became such a better technical analyst. I learned just so much more about technical, like context, like, okay, I have the foundations, I know how to read a chart, I got all the cred knowledge. Now I can look at all these alt charts and all these different things, and just like know exactly what to do. But not only that, the thing with Bob too is, not only is he an amazing technical analyst, and I'll get into some of these other guys here in a second, but not only is he a great analyst, but he's just such like the calm, level head that you need. And I realized more and more that like anytime anything crazy was happening in the crypto space, and sure, especially like in a raging sort of bull run when there's everything is frothy and there's so much just nonsense being thrown around and there's just so much crazy stuff happening, and I would kind of start to wonder, what am I going to do, or what should I do here, or how should I navigate this? Without a doubt, I could put one of these Bob Loukas videos on, or he would come on and put a video out, and he was always just the calm, clear voice of reason. Like he never was freaked out about anything. He never was, disturbed. He never lost his composure. He was always just like Yep, this is what's going on. Nope, you don't need to worry about that. You don't need to worry about that. This is what's important. Only think about this here, and like tune out all the rest of the stuff, and here you go, you know? And I would watch these videos at the end and I would just be like, like, okay, good. Now I'm centered. Now I'm focused again. Now I feel like I can navigate this and know what's up. And actually, I kind of just want to pause here for a second. First of all, I'm not selling any of this stuff. These guys don't know who I am. I'm not making any money here. This isn't like a shill. I I would be doing this like no matter. I mean, I'm not getting paid to do this, obviously. Do I have an affiliate link for Bitcoin Live? Yes, but like even if I didn't, I would absolutely be doing this anyway because I think this is really important. I think this is to me, I've subscribed to, I don't know, probably a dozen different stupid services over the last 5 or 6 years, and none of them I've renewed. This is the only one, in terms of like an information service. Well, this and Real Vision, which is a whole different thing that I'll get into later, different episode. But like this is the only thing that I will always renew and keep coming back to and always keep paying for, and it will always be worth it because like I don't know how I can navigate the crypto space without this. So like, yes, it's that good. And so yeah, so I started, I was learning all this stuff from Bob, and then I finally was like, okay, well, I'm paying for this. Obviously, I should branch out. I should start looking into these other guys. And I want to touch on a few. I'm not going to touch on all of them. They're all good. They're all really good. But I j- honestly, I just kind of don't have the bandwidth to dig into all of them like on a regular basis. So I only watch regularly, probably half of these guys. No shade on any of them. No disrespect. They're all good. Other people might find amazing value in some of these that I don't watch. But the ones that have really resonated with me the most are Bob Loukas, are Mark Dukas here, and I'll touch on Mark briefly. So the cool thing with Mark actually is, so Mark actually, hold on. Mark has developed his own indicator set, which I really applaud. This smart money algorithm indicator set, and he actually sells it too. You can buy it, you can pay for it, and subscribe to it through TradingView, and add it into your TradingView charts. And it's really interesting. I did a trial on it. I didn't buy it at the time, not because I didn't like it, but just because in that moment it was um, it was a little more than I could afford, to be honest. And I haven't circled back around to it, but I do watch Mark's videos and read Mark's posts fairly regularly because they're very insightful. I do think his indicator set is really actually unique, and I always do kind of, even though I can't use it in my own trading view, I do like to go and watch his videos and see what they're saying and see what kind of insight he's getting from them because I think it is helpful. And I just, again, I really have to applaud somebody that can develop an indicator set that has the technical knowledge to create such a thing and then actually use it himself and with success and make money off of it and basically base his entire trading process around these indicators that he himself has created. And so just big time props to Mark for doing that. Interesting guy, great analyst, and his posts are always really insightful. And I'm happy to find that a lot of time they're very much in line with my own conclusions, and so that's always really cool too. Um, and then who do we got? So yeah, and then Peter Brandt too. So Peter Brandt's great on this service. I'm not going to share a bunch of stuff because this is all kind of paywall information, but I'll just kind of show one screenshot quickly of each. But Peter comes on and he does really great posts. Sometimes he does videos, sometimes he does just kind of a blog type format that I really like because he's always very insightful. He always posts a bunch of different charts with different bigger picture macro analysis, and I always learn something from him. And and again, I'm always glad when his conclusions are similar to mine too. So I appreciate having him in there. Are we there? Okay, sorry. I think my mic cut out for a second. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, okay, back to where we were. So yeah, so I watch all these guys, but yeah, ultimately, if I could only watch one every week, I would come back and I would watch Bob Loukas and his few videos every week, because like again, they give so much insight. They teach you how to break down a chart. They teach you how to um, just apply context, and then invariably throughout the cycle as you're going along, you do learn how to identify trade setups, and then you do start making actionable trades based on some of these setups that you stumble across through learning how to conduct this analysis. And Bob is grateful at highlighting them and pointing them out, and occasionally he will throw out a signal sort of, but it's like unless you're watching his stuff regularly, it's only going to be so helpful. But like he'll say, hey, I'm looking for, he'll like draw a line and he'll be like, hey, if such and such token, comes up to this level, that's probably a good place to open along. And he'll go in and explain why, and then he'll set an alert there. And then like if, suddenly that alert triggers throughout the course of the next couple days, he'll post an alert saying, hey, that alert that I set that we talked about in my last video did trigger. So if, that's something that, fits with what you're doing, obviously, this is something you might want to act on, of course, with applying proper risk management and all the disclaimers. But like again, it's not like a signal service; it's an education service, and there's so much more even in this site than just the like the weekly updates that come out, or multi-weekly updates that come out. There's a bunch of educational content. There's like old videos that teach you how to how the cycles work and things like that. Um, and that's what I want to get into next. So Bob he's a cycle, he's like a cycles trader. That's his whole sort of basis. And so when we come back to um, looking at TradingView, he's the person that I follow that basically sheds light on this and informed me. So I showed you the 4-year cycle at the beginning of this video, how Bitcoin goes up 3 years and down 1 year. So within that 4-year cycle, there's things called weekly cycles, and then there's things called daily cycles. And a daily cycle is basically just roughly every 60 days, Bitcoin has a cycle that's like a run up and a peak and then a dip. And often, more often than not, it occurs on an average of every 60 days. But you can see from this chart, it's almost never actually 60 on the dot. And then a weekly cycle is basically just made up of 4 daily cycles. So all of this like informs my analysis. It's like I use all these other indicators that I talk about on a regular basis, but always in the background, I'm always cognizant of where we are in the cycle. And this isn't an indicator. So many people are like, hey, what indicator do you use to get these numbers to show up on your chart? It's not actually an indicator. It's like these are all manually entered, and I just go to here for the, well, I just copy and paste them now, but you can go to, what is it? One of these stupid things they did a big update recently and moved all this stuff around, and now I can't find anything. um I think it's these arrows here, arrow markup, arrow down. um and that's what I started with, and I just as the cycles unfold, I manually go in and mark these on here. And it's really just for my reference. It's not like I don't use this to kind of inform real-time activity or trading or buying and selling. It's more just to provide historical context. And what that does for me is like it allowed me, an example of the kind of historical context it can provide is it allowed me to say, for example, when we got to this point here, and I knew that this was going to be the end of a daily cycle and the end of a weekly cycle and also the end of a 4-year cycle, all kind of on the same day. I knew this was a hugely significant week right here. And based on the fact that we had kind of come down and pushed these lows and then didn't really push any further lows throughout this week and even kind of started to run up, I felt supremely confident coming into this cycle, coming into the sort of the closure of this whole chunk of history here, that this was likely going to be a really, really good time to buy. And so, pat myself on the back, I actually bought like my full allocation on January 6th, based on this sort of insight right here that came from the context of having this sort of cycle history in my head. And of course, so far so good. That has played out amazingly well for me. And I think had I not had that, I would not have nearly had the confidence, to do what I did. Um, but some other things that like cycles are helpful for, and Bob would tell you all this stuff in his videos, but like let's look at them actually on the daily. So what I use cycles for more so on a daily level is just like one to keep a level head. Like I never panic with because if we have like let's just say when we had this big run up, coming out of January, we had this big run up into like a day 52 high. I knew at this point that we were way deep into a cycle, much deeper than typically we are. And so I was, you can kind of know to expect a pretty significant dip at this point. And so of course, when it started dipping, I didn't panic because I was, I saw it coming a mile away. I knew we were way overdue for a dip. Not only that, and so when we got one, I was like, "Great, this is great." And not only was it great, but I was really happy when it really came down here and then started to punch up and start setting immediately higher highs because I knew right away the cycle had ended and we were starting a new one, and it likely wasn't going to be a continuation down further. And so just sort of having the perspective of how the cycles tend to flow, tend to operate. Typically in a bull market, what you want to see is roughly 30, or I'm sorry, roughly 40-ish days, 40 to 45 days up, and 15 to 20 days down. And you'll see that play out. Granted, in the beginning of a new 4-year cycle, you tend to get some kind of wonky, a bit of haphazard stuff like we're seeing. But if we go back to like let's go back to the previous cycle, it's a lot clearer. So, well, just kind of we had this COVID crash. I'll start right around here. We had this COVID crash. It came up. This was a relatively clean, structured cycle, but then we went sideways for a bit. This is right around when the halving occurred, um, and we had a little bit of a wonkiness. But then, once the bull market starts, you get these very clearly defined cycles. Where, granted, this one went up much longer than we thought it would. I guess to kind of piggyback on this, just know that like a cycle, when I say a 60-day cycle, it doesn't ever have to be 60 days. It's not ever going to be 60 days. It's just that's just like a general guideline. Sometimes they're 78 days. Sometimes they're 40 days, whatever. But what you want to, it's basically just to kind of help you identify which direction the trend is going. It's going to spend in a bull market, it's going to spend way more time going up and way less time going down. And so tracking how much time it's going up versus how much time it's spending going down is a way to give you context on sort of the strength of the market and the strength of the trend and things like that. And so, and then of course, like, here we had a regular, very sort of textbook cycle, 43 days up, and then a 57-day, down into a day 57 low. And then this one was interesting because we came up, we had a 50-day high, a 62-day low. So this looked a regular healthy cycle, but then immediately we kind of had a big peak coming out of here. And this gave me pause in the moment because, it started to base once it kind of comes back down and gets lower than your cycle open, something's broken at that point. And so kind of by here, looking at it just from like a purely cyclical standpoint, this cycle was invalidated. Immediately as soon as it set a new low below this day 62 low right here, suddenly, oh, this isn't going to be a regular 60-day upwards, 40 days up, 20 days down textbook cycle. The market structure has broken. And so right away, I was like, okay, this is when you need to stop and pay attention and look at what's going on and assess. Maybe you need to, dig into some other analysis and try and identify. And of course, sure enough, it was. I mean, this turned out to be what's called a left translated cycle, where price only goes where the peak is before the midday or the midpoint of the cycle, rather, before day 30. And so as soon as we had a left translated cycle here, the whole structure of the market had shifted. And then we had another left translated cycle again in a row here. So this was immediately a downtrend. I mean, we can tell that obviously from other indicators too. It's not like it's hard to define or identify when you're in a downtrend or the trend is reversed, but I'm just telling you how you can use the cycle structure to also glean this sort of insight. But I remember in this period of time, this was very helpful coming into here because I knew we were coming around day 60, and I was expecting a shift in market sentiment. I was expecting something to change, and so I actually had sold, not quite, right around when the structure had broken, basically. I had sold, hoping to buy some back cheaper, and I was going to really lean into the cycles analysis to sort of get a sense of when it was going to be a good time to buy back in. And so when we got around day 60, day 59 here, and we had this big reversal candle coming out that set a new higher high, I was pretty confident at that point that the structure was going to shift, and so I actually bought back in. Had it done it here, I wouldn't have been as confident. I probably wouldn't have bought back in, even if it would have kept on going from here. I would have missed the boat. But because we were around day 60 here, almost exactly on day 60, I had a lot more confidence in this setup. And so as soon as we closed this big candle back above this 10-day moving average, I was right back in. I was right on board, and it paid off, amazingly, because I basically rode this whole next bit back up to the all-time highs. And so yeah, this is just kind of some sort of food for thought on how you can use this cycles analysis to sort of just have a different perspective on how the market flows, and to kind of keep a level head, and to know that when stuff is going down, it's it it makes sense to know, or it helps to know if it's going down when it should be, like around day 60, or if it's going down perhaps at a time when it shouldn't be. um, and so that, having that insight, I think, is really, really helpful. And this is what Bob talks about, like, pretty much every day in his videos. um, or every week, he'll do a big cycles analysis, and he'll kind of break down where we are in the cycle, and then he'll break into some other charts and look at alt charts, and he doesn't necessarily apply the cycles to alts in the same exact way, but it's helpful to kind of have the cycles in sight, and then he goes in and teaches you how to, like, look at other charts too, and use other indicators too. He focuses a lot on the 10 and the 20 week, or 10 and the 20 bar moving average, and the Bollinger Bands too, a fair bit. And so I've learned a lot of just my general TA, sort of in terms of applying it to actual live charts, and contextualizing it, and using it to glean actionable insights from. These core set of indicators that I use are primarily from watching Bob's videos. I do use a bunch of other indicators, as you've seen, that I've talked about on this show, but, like, in terms of just kind of doing a quick run through, and sort of gleaning, getting my finger on the pulse of what's going on. The Bollinger Bands and these two moving averages are plenty, and then the cycles on top of that, and I've got everything I need. And then everything else there is just kind of, you know, little bits of extra sort of nuance that can be helpful in painting in the rest of the picture. But you can get 95% of anything you ever need to know with just these three indicators, in my opinion. Um, so yeah. Um, I guess really that's kind of all I wanted to touch on. I wanted to really highlight those two guys because I think they've been very important in my journey along the way, Cred and Bob Loukas. And like I said, I'm going to have links to both of their channels and stuff in the description. And I highly encourage you to go and watch those Cred videos. I highly encourage you to subscribe to Bitcoin Live. Again, if you're new to crypto, or new to investing or trading or technical analysis, and you look at it and you go, I don't know, man, $100, that seems, I don't know if I'm in that place yet. Maybe if you're not already subscribing to some stuff and you haven't found something that is going to be, quote, worth it, I guarantee you it's so worth it. And it will pay for itself if you take the insight that you get from these analysts and you apply it to your actual investing activity, and you learn how to do what they're doing. You will more than pay for it, like I said, many times over, to the point where you're like, I don't know how I can even operate without this. So please factor that in, and I hope you do subscribe, because I think that these two guys are both just amazing resources, and amazing assets to the space, and I would be nowhere kind of without them. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. And yeah, uh, thanks for watching. And on Friday, I'll be back with just a regular charts breakdown. Not much happening, just I can tell you already, not much is happening this week, but we'll see what it looks like by Friday, and we'll go from there. So have a good rest of your week, everybody, and I will see you in a couple days.